The Scholar's Reincarnation. The story starts off with the main character, the Chilia warrior, fighting 10 strong masters. At the beginning of the fight, the Chilia warrior is completely dominating them, and even brutally murders one by slamming him with his elbow at the back of his neck. This master was called Master Kyolo, who was known as the Supreme Master of the Dark. The fight seems to be going well for the Chilia warrior until a saint, Wongong, puts his life on the line to completely rid of the warrior. The saint claims that he has Buddha on his side and cannot be broken in that state, and also claims he is using a state called Namo Amithabia, which is not really a state, but a prayer which someone says before sacrifice, which makes his body as hard as a diamond. The Chilia warrior struggles and struggles, but it isn't enough and the attack results in a big explosion. At the very last moments, the Chilia warrior shouts at Wongong and asks him if he's prepared to die from sacrificing himself, and Wongong responds, "How could I stop you without risking my life?" This is all an inept old man can do, and wishes the Chilia warrior the best in his next life. We then see the Chilia warrior tied up, and he gets absolutely obliterated by what looks like a giant light beam. And that's the end of the story. Or so we thought? Before, there was a scene shown where the Chilia warrior looks as though he's transforming into something of the shape of a baby, and as exactly as we thought, the story moves to a perspective of a baby boy, whose name is Junhua Huang, who we assume to be the reincarnation of the Chilia warrior. We have a few pieces of evidence considering this baby being the reincarnation. One is during the part where Wongong says, "I wish you best in your next life," which makes us think that Wongong had planned for the Chilia warrior to be reincarnated. There was also the previous scene, which I've already talked about, where he is actually taking the form of something which seems like a baby. And later on, we learn that it is in fact him. The reincarnated Chilia warrior questions where he is, who is holding him, and where Wongong is. We then have a small time skip to 3 years later, where Junhua receives a wooden sword from the family servant, whose name is Kyungho. Junhua seems very grateful for the sword and goes to his own training grounds. From then, we see him practicing on something called internal energy with this sword and starts honing his skills. He fails a few times but keeps trying. After this, there's a small time skip where we skip to the mother of Junhua going into labor. She gives birth to a young baby, which is a girl and is Junhua's sister, going by the name of Xian Huang. Now, you may be asking multiple questions about the Huang family, whether this is wanting more information about them or wanting to know who they are. So now I will provide a small biography on each Huang family member. Huang Yongwu. He is the young lord of the Huang family and a powerful young martial artist. He is also the reincarnation of the Chilia warrior who was feared as a martial god of the dark arts. In Huang's previous life, it is noted that he was an orphan. Although Huang is plagued by a bloody past of murder and death from his previous life, he still finds peace in his reincarnation because of the love and care given from his family. Huang Xiao Yon. She is the sister of Huang Yongwu and seems to have a brother complex. Her personality is very upbeat but is not underestimated. While seemingly naive, she is very mature for her age and is very tomboyish, and her girl side is mostly taken from her mother and maidservants. She is 3 years younger than Huang Yongwu and holds a very strong sense of justice. There is not much information about the mother and father of Huang Yongwu, so a biography will not be provided for them. Now let's get back to the story. When Junhua reaches the age of 7, his father gets him a literature teacher going by the name of Baikyoki. After training daily with Baikyoki for a long time, Junhua gets very bored as he states he learned all of this in his previous life and is being killed by boredom. After this, we go to a scene of dinner time where we see both Junhua and his sister eating dinner together. They seem to be having a lot of fun and it's a very wholesome scene. The manga then diverts to the next scene where we see Junhua lying in bed. He's about to go to sleep and is relaxing, until he starts to think about his past life. We see him thinking about Wongong and saying to Wongong in his head, "Vengeance. You don't want that, do you, old man Wongong?" Before Junhua heads to bed, he says, "I don't miss the life I had before," and claims and admits that the Saint Wongong has won, and finally falls asleep. After having a very long sleep, Junwoo wakes up around the time of Myosi, which means around the time of 5 to 7 am. We then see Junwoo saying that Myosi is the best time of the day, and he enters a stage of meditation. After Junwoo finishes meditating, he states, and it is seen, that he has reached the 4th level of harmony. Later on in the day, Junwoo is studying with the family servant Kyungho and slams his book on the table, exclaiming that he's had enough, and leaves to go outside to play. Kyungho states that it was a rhetorical question, and Junwoo responds by referring to birds in the sky. Kyungho looks very confused, and Junwoo responds by asking how he can be sitting at his desk all day and birds are free, and says he must go wherever his feet take him. Kyungho tries to stop Junwoo from leaving by saying that the plan was to study during OSI every day, which is the time period of 11 am to 1 pm, but he doesn't listen and tells Kyungho that his parents just came in and won't check in for a while. After that, Junwoo is about to go outside alongside Kyungho, but they encounter the female servant and Junwoo's sister. We learn that the servant was going to go to the market to buy fish. However, Hwang Seo-yeon wanted to follow alongside her, so she had to come along. Kyungho asks which market they are going to, and the female servant responds by saying that they are going to the fish market, which comes out every 7 days. We then see Junwoo thinking about fish in his head and mentioning how fish is all about freshness. They then arrive at the market and the place seems amazing. There's noise and people everywhere, and the place is completely packed. We then see the female servant spotting a big shark that Junwoo's father had been very eager to try. So the female servant goes back to Kyungho and tells him to look after both Junwoo and her sister as she heads to go and buy the giant fish. Then a few scenes appears where we see Junwoo and his sister running around and playing. Kyungho decides they should all start heading back, and the female servant comes back almost instantly and apologizes for being late. She mentions that the competition for the shark was very fierce, but she still managed to get some. Kyungho looks to his right to see Junwoo and Seo-yeon missing. The female servant also realizes they are missing and asks where they are, and she looks at Kyungho, realizing he's confused and scared as well. Kyungho says they were just next to him a second ago, and both of them go around looking for them almost instantly. We don't find out where Junwoo is. However, it's safe to assume that he's been kidnapped. The story switches to the perspective of Junwoo. He's laying on the ground near what seems to be a biscuit, and in front are 3 towering figures. Is Junwoo trapped? Will he find a way out? And will Kyungho eventually find him and his sister? The story diverts to the main town, and it's seen that everyone is in an outrage and is worried that something has happened to them. Junwoo wakes up to find himself surrounded by a group of bandits. As he's staring at them viciously, they mock him, saying that he's one scary-looking brat. One of the bandits approaches him, asking him if he wants to fight, whilst giving him a stare of killer intent. They are interrupted by one of the other bandits, who announces that the boss said they should proceed with their plans and keep their eyes on them. Junwoo breaks through the band on his mouth, and the bandits are very surprised, asking how a kid like him could do something like that. Junwoo warns them about who his dad is and advises them to quit whilst they're at it. One of them gets angry, and it looks as though they are about to fight until one of them teleports behind him and suffocates Junwoo.